Good morning, dear students. Today I shall take up My Unknown Friend by Stephen Leacock. Stephen Leacock was a very popular Canadian humorist. He was also a teacher for many years. Literary lapses, nonsense novels, and sunshine sketches of a little town are some of his books. Now let us start and see who is the speaker's unknown friend. He stepped into the compartment of the Pullman where I was sitting alone. Pullman, a luxury railway carriage. The unknown friend of the speaker stepped in the compartment, a luxury railway carriage, where I was sitting alone, where the speaker was sitting alone. There he entered into the compartment. He had a long fur-lined coat and he carried $50 suitcase. He had a long fur-lined coat. He had a long fur-lined coat, that is his overcoat, and his suitcase were very expensive. Then he saw me. Then the unknown friend of the speaker saw the writer, saw the speaker. Well, he said. He behaved in such a way as he recognized the speaker, recognized the writer, or he was his old acquaintance. He was behaving in such a way. He said, well, and recognition broke out all over his face like morning sunlight. And recognition was fully expressed by his face. He was behaving in such a way as it appeared to the speaker, it appeared to the writer that he was his old acquaintance, he was his old, staunchest old friend. Well, I repeated. The speaker also repeated by saying, well, but in reality, the speaker, the writer, did not recognize the unknown person. By Jove, he said. By God, he said, shaking hands vigorously, shaking hands enthusiastically. Who would have thought of seeing you? Who would have thought of seeing you? Who indeed, I thought to myself. The speaker thought to himself, who indeed? Who is this man? In reality, the writer, the speaker, did not know anything about the person who greeted him and who said, well, when he entered in the compartment when the speaker was sitting alone there. He looked at me more closely. He looked at me more closely and he was looking at the writer in such a way that after a long interval, after a long time, they met each other and he was behaving like his old friend. You have not changed a bit, he said. The unknown friend said to the writer that you have not changed a bit. Nothing was changed in you. Many years before, when I saw you, you were the same as I see you today. Neither have you, said I hotly. The speaker also, the writer also said the same thing. You have not also changed. Neither have you. I do not find any change in you. Such words the writer also spoke. And all the time I was wondering who he was. And all the time I was wondering who he was. The writer was wondering. The writer was in a fix. Who is this person? He did not know in reality about the person. He did not know anything about the person. But inwardly, he was thinking about all these things. I did not know him from Adam. I did not know him from Adam. An expression used to say, I did not know him. I did not know him at all. I did not know him from Adam means I did not know him at all. I could not recall him a bit. I could not recall him a bit. Nothing he could recall in his mind that gave him a clue about that person who was sitting and greeted him. True, I find it very hard to remember people's name. It was very difficult for the speaker to remember people's name. Very often too, it is hard for me to recall a face, and that's why it was very difficult for the speaker to recall a face. And frequently I failed to recall a person's appearance, and that's why it was very difficult for the writer to remember, to recall a person's appearance, a person's face, what was it was in the past. And of course, clothes are a thing one does not notice. And of course, clothes are a thing one does not notice. But apart from these details, I never forget anyone. The writer says that he never forgets anybody, and I am proud of it. And the writer was proud of it, that if he saw anyone, he did not forget that person. But when it does happen that a name or face escapes me, I never lose my presence of mind. I never lose my presence of mind. I never remain calm and behave normally. I never lose my presence of mind. I know just how to deal with situation. The writer was very expert in dealing in such diverse circumstances of life. It only needs coolness and intellect to deal with diverse circumstances of life. The speaker says that you should be calm and collected, you should be silent, you should be cool, and you should have intellect that will help you to face such kind of circumstances, to face the diverse circumstances of life, and it all comes right and everything will come right. My friend sat down. My friend sat down, the writer's friend sat down there. It is a long time since we met, he said. And he said, it is a long time since we met. I repeated a long time. I repeated with something of a note of sadness. The writer expresses his feelings, the speaker expresses his feelings with a note of sadness in his words. A long time, really a long time, after a long time we met each other. I wanted him to feel that I too had suffered from it. I wanted to make the unknown friend feel that he was also experiencing the same thing as he was experiencing. But it has gone very quickly. Like a flash, I agreed cheerfully like a flash. He said, strange how life goes on and we lose track of people and things alter. He said, the unknown friend said, strange, it is very strange how life goes on. And he started talking to the speaker, how life goes on, how everything is going on in your life. We lose track of people. It is a very strange thing that we lose track of the people. Out of sight is out of mind. The same thing happened in the case of the unknown friend and the writer. And things alter. After some time, things changes. After sometimes the thing changes. I often think about it. The writer often think about it. I sometimes wonder. The speaker sometimes wonder. He continued, where all the old gang are gone. The unknown friend continued and started talking about the old friends. I said, so do I. In fact, I was wondering about it at the very moment. I always find in circumstances like these that a man begins sooner or later to talk of the old gang or the boys or the crowd. Where the opportunity comes in to understand who he is. The writer was thinking Still he was thinking about the person, because in reality he did not recognize the person, and the person was asking to him about the old gang, about the old person, about the crowd in which they were living in the past. Do you ever go back to the old place? He asked. He asked the speaker do you ever go to the old place? Means the old place where they were visiting in the past. On those places, he was still going. I said never. Formally and flatly. He gave a flat refusal. He said never. Never he went to the places where they were visiting in the past. This had to be absolute. This had to be absolute. I felt that once and for all, the old place must be ruled out after discussion till I could discover where it was. Till I could discover where it was. Now he went on. I suppose you would hardly care to. No, he went on. But the person said, no, he went on. He continued talking with the writer. Really, you were not going there on the old places where we were going in our childhood. I suppose you would hardly care to. Not now, I said very gently. The writer said very gently, not now. I understand, I beg your pardon, he said. He said, I understand everything, I beg your pardon, and there was a silence for a few moments. For a few moments, his unknown friend, the writer's unknown friend, remained silent for a few moments, and the conversation was stopped. So far, I had scored the first point. There was evidently an old place somewhere to find. I would hardly care to go. That was something to be done. Presently, he began again. All of a sudden, the unknown friend started talking to the writer again. He said, yes, I sometimes meet some of the old boys and they begin to talk of you and wonder, what are you doing? He said that I met some of our old friends and they were talking about you. Today, we met by chance, so tell me what are you doing? I shall tell them when they met me again in future. I thought poor things, but I did not say. I thought poor things, but I did not say. I knew it was time now to make a bold stroke. The writer knew, I knew it was time now to make a bold stroke. A bold or risky step, that is to begin questioning him to know who he really is. So I used the method that I always employ. The writer used, the speaker used the method which he employed in the past. I struck in with a great animation. The writer spoke very confidently and eagerly to his unknown friend. I said yes. I said, say, where is Billy? He started asking. He started interrogating to his unknown friend. Where is Billy, our old friend? Do you ever hear anything of Billy now? This is really a very safe line. Every old gang has a Billy in it. Every old gang, every gang, every friend circle has a Billy. A Billy Dawson, quarrelsome person. Yes, said my friend. My friend said yes. Sure, Billy, a ranching out in Montana. Billy ranching out, taking care of a ranch, a large farm in which animals like cows, horses or sheep are bred. Okay, out in Montana. He is in Montana. I saw him in Chicago last spring. Last spring he was in Chicago. Weight about 200 pounds. His weight is 200 pounds. You would not know him. No, I really would not. I murmured to myself. The writer murmured to himself. He said something to himself. And where is Pity? I said, this also was safe ground. There is always a Pity. You mean Billy's brother? He said. The unknown friend said, you are talking about Billy's brother. Yes, Billy's brother Pity. I often think of him. I often think of him, the writer says. Oh, answered the unknown man. The unknown man answered, old Pete is quite changed. Old Pete is quite changed. Means Billy's brother changed a lot. Settled down altogether. He settled down completely. Here he began to chuckle why Pete is married. I started to laugh. The writer started to laugh. Under these circumstances, it is always supposed to be very funny if a man has got married. My friend continued, the writer's old friend, the writer's unknown friend continued talking to the writer. I often meant to write to you. I often meant to write to you. He said, his voice falling to a confidential tone, especially when I heard of your loss. I remained quiet. The writer remained quiet when he was talking. What had I lost? Was it money? And if so, how much? And why had I lost it? I wondered if it had ruined me or only partly ruined me. One can never get over a loss like that. He continued solemnly. He continued talking to the writer seriously. Evidently, I was plumb ruined. Evidently, I was completely ruined. But I said nothing and remained under cover. But I said nothing and I remained still pretended to be friend the other person had recognized. Yes, the man went on. The man went on talking. Death is always sad, he said. Death, oh, that was it. Was it? I almost hiccuped. The writer got hiccuped with joy. That was easy. Handling a case of death in these conversations is simplicity itself. One has only to sit quiet and wait to find out who is dead. Yes, I murmured. Very sad, really. Someone's death is very sad. But it has its other side too. Very true, especially, of course, at that age. As you say, at that age and after such a life. Strong and bright to the last, I suppose. He continued very sympathetically. The unknown friend continued very sympathetically and said, strong and bright to the last, I suppose. Yes, I said, falling on sure ground, able to sit up in bed and smoke within a few days of the end. He said, what? Looking confused. The unknown friend was confused when the writer was saying like this. Did your grandmother? My grandmother. That was it. Was it? Pardon me, I said, annoyed at my own stupidity. The writer was annoyed. The speaker was annoyed at his own stupidity and said, pardon me. When I say smoked, I mean able to sit up and be smoked too, asking someone to sit by you and smoke so that you can inhale some of the smokes. A habit he had. Being read to and being smoked to, only think that seemed to calm her down. As I said this, I could feel the train slowing down. My friend looked quietly out of the window. When the train was slowing down, the unknown friend of the speaker, the unknown friend of the writer, was looking outside of the window. Great heavens, he said. His face was agitated. His face was anxious. He said, great heavens, that is the junction. The train is stopped at the junction. I have missed my stop. He said that I have missed my stop. I have to get down. I have to get down on the previous station. I should have got out at the last station. At the last station, I should have to got down. Say, porter. He called out into the alleyway. He called out into the alleyway, a railway, a narrow passage in the compartment of a train. He called out the porter. How long do we stop here? And he started talking to the porter. How long the train is stopped here on this junction? Called out a voice back. A voice called out from the back just 2 minutes ago. Sir, she is late now. She is making up time. Means the train is making up time. That is making up for last time. Okay, that's why it will stop here for 2 minutes. My friend had hoped up now. He had pulled out a bunch of keys and was fumbling at the lock of the suitcase. He pulled out a bunch of keys and he was fumbling to open the lock of the suitcase. My one fear now was that he would fail to get off. Here, I said, pulling some money out of my pocket. Don't bother with the lock, the writer said. Here are some monies. Here are some monies. Don't bother to open your lock. Thanks, he said, grabbing the roll of money out of my hand. The unknown friend grabbed the money which the writer had in his hand. In his excitement, he took all that he had. And in his excitement, he took all the money which the writer had in his hand. He sprang from the train. I saw him through the window. He sprang from the train and the writer saw him from the window moving toward the waiting room. He was going towards the waiting room. He did not seem to be going very fast. And he did not seem to go towards the waiting room very fast. I waited. The writer waited. The porter were calling. The porters were calling, all aboard, all aboard. That is, everyone get in. Those who get down from the train, all of them get into the train. All aboard. There was the clang of a bell. There was a clang of the bell, a hiss of steam, and the train started hissing to leave the station. And in a second, the train was up. And within a second, the train left the station. Idiot, I thought. He has missed it. And there was his $50 suitcase left on the floor. The writer said he left his $50 suitcase on the floor. I waited, looking out of the window and wondering who the man was anyway. The writer was surprised and he was still thinking about that unknown friend. Then I heard the porter's voice again. Then the writer heard the porter's voice again. He evidently was guiding someone through the car. He was guiding other passengers in the compartment. Looked all through the car for itself, the car, that is the carriage of the train. He was saying, I left it on the seat in the car. There behind my wife, said he, the angry voice of a stranger, a well-dressed man who put his head into the door of my compartment. Then his face too beamed all at once with recognition. But it was not for me. It was for the $50 suitcase. He cried, there it is, seizing it and carrying it off. He seized the suitcase and carrying it off. I sat back in dismay. The old gang, Peter's marriage, my grandmother's death, great heavens, and my money. I saw it all. The other man was making talk to and making it with a purpose. The writer was remembering all the words which he used while he was talking to his unknown friend. Stung, cheated through pretense. He said that the unknown friend cheated him through his pretense. The next time that I fall into talk with a casual stranger in a car, I shall not try to be quite so extraordinarily clever. The writer made it a point. Thank you.